Not too long ago, we heard about Scarlett Johansson suing Disney over the release of Black Widow. She accused them of refusing to work with her, breaking her contract, and she was looking for over $50 million. And shortly after that, we heard that other actresses like Emily Blunt and Emma Stone were thinking about suing Disney over the same things like breaking their contracts. And it sounded like they were going to have enough legal trouble on their hands for a while with those situations. But apparently, the news keeps getting worse for Disney because they're suing comic book artists' estates to try and keep their rights over characters that have made the MCU what it is, like Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, and even Doctor Strange. But before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month or supporting via memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So let's start off with this Hollywood Reporter article. It says Marvel suing to keep rights to Avengers characters from copyright termination. Disney's Marvel unit is suing to hold on to full control of Avengers characters, including Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Falcon, Thor, and others. The complaints which the Hollywood Reporter has obtained come against the heirs of some late comic book geniuses like Stan Lee and also Steve Ditko. The suit seeks declaratory relief that these blockbuster characters are ineligible for copyright termination as works made for hire, and if Marvel loses, Disney would have to share ownership of characters worth billions. This could really mix up the future of the MCU if they can't hold on to ownership of these characters. Phase 4 of the MCU really isn't that interesting in my opinion. I have no interest in the Marvels and the new Captain America they're going with. I'm hopeful for things like Eternals, but if the ownership of any of these characters fall through, we could see a major change in plans. They've got movies and games and comics planned for years in advance, so if these don't work out the way that they want, it could lead to a really big shakeup. It says in August, the administrator of Ditko's estate filed a notice of termination on Spider-Man, which first appeared in comic book form in 1962. A character that so many people love and so many people look at Marvel and go, okay, where's the next Spider-Man movie or the next Spider-Man comic? It says under the termination provisions of copyright law, authors or their heirs can claim rights once granted to publishers after waiting a statutory set period of time, and according to the termination notice, Marvel would have to give up Ditko's rights to its iconic character in June 2023. So realistically, that's not that far away. I mean, we're almost at the end of 2021 now. It says Marvel is facing other termination notices as well. For example, Larry Lieber, who worked at Marvel as a writer too, filed termination notices over creations in May. The heirs of the comic book creators, including Black Widow creator, are being represented by Mark Toberoff, who once famously represented Superman creators Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster in an unsuccessful termination against DC. We all know that Disney can easily afford to license these characters like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange for whatever they want for as long as they want. Of course, they don't want to, though. Having to pay people for their creations isn't something that Disney wants to do. I know a lot of people are saying, well, the original creators are gone for the most part, and it's their greedy estates that want the money, but in my opinion, I think it'd be much better to have their families get the money instead of Disney just continuing to profit off of other people's creations. I personally have no interest in defending Disney, and in this case, I think that the estates definitely deserve the money for something their family created. I don't understand why people wouldn't see that and go, oh yeah, of course the families deserve the money. Obviously, some people can look at it as, oh, they're just greedy, it's not even their creations, but their family members created these characters. Don't you think they deserve the funds? It says Toberoff also has a lot of experience doing this type of case. Almost a decade ago, he represented the estate of comic book legend Jack Kirby over whether he could terminate a copyright grant on Spider-Man and X-Men, The Incredible Hulk, and The Mighty Thor. In August 2013, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed a lower court's ruling that determined Kirby's heirs couldn't wrest back his share of rights to these characters because the former Marvel freelancer had contributed his materials as a work made for hire. The Kirby case was then petitioned up to the Supreme Court, with the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg signaling some interest in taking up the case, and Marvel at the time fought hard against any court review, and before the justices decided, the case was settled. This was a giant case back when it happened. So many people remember this case and are looking at this new situation going, it's very, very similar. But scrolling back up, it talks more about DC, and it says DC saved off termination by counterclaiming against Toberoff and asserting interference of its rights. The publisher was represented by Dan Petrocelli, who just so happens to be representing Disney now in its efforts to keep rights to various Avengers characters. These people have been in this game for years. It doesn't matter who they're representing or which side they're representing. They've been mixed up in this situation and situations very similar to this one for years now. It says Petrocelli is filing several lawsuits in New York and California against Lieber, Don Heck, Patrick Ditko, Don Rico. The cases will focus on the creation of famous comic book characters and who should be deemed the statutory author. The litigation figures to focus on the Marvel method, a loose collaborative working atmosphere where initial ideas were briefly discussed with artists responsible for taking care of the details, and the Marvel method has been the subject of prior litigation, such as a dispute a decade back over Ghost Rider. There are tons of different situations that are very similar to the notices being filed now, these termination notices that are being filed now. Disney and Marvel, they are no strangers to lawsuits, to situations like this happening, and now we've got several more estates and also individuals coming forward saying that Marvel's screwing us over. Okay, we want to change this. We want to take our work back or our family members' work back, and we want what we deserve out of it. I personally don't view that as them being greedy. I know a lot of people do, but not everyone in this case has passed away. If we look at Lieber's situation, he is still alive. He did work for Marvel, and he wants rights to his character back. So heading back to the article, it says now comes new litigation which figures to pick up where earlier ones left off. Marvel's suit calls the latest controversy virtually identical circumstances to Kirby's. Well, I guess we're gonna have to see, but it says that Disney is facing the loss of full ownership and the studio would have to share profits with the others, which of course is what they don't want to happen. They want to have all of the profits to themselves. It says additionally the termination provisions of copyright law only apply in the United States. Now, Marvel could potentially lose billions if this doesn't work out the way they want. I think they'll probably end up settling, just like what happened with Kirby's estate back in 2013, but who knows? Maybe they'll decide not to settle. They probably will want to take the easiest and least public route possible, but it's hard to win against a giant corporation like Disney. It's not a 0% chance, but they can throw any resources at a case. They've got some of the best lawyers there are, and they'll do anything to win. But that's all the information we really have right now. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this situation, but if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.